Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have won a game of football for the first time in 2021. I'm not entirely sure what time of asking it is, something like the 6th or the 7th game. I'm obviously discounting the win against Aston Villa because it was against the kids. For the first time up against a professional football team of adults that we were not 100% expected to beat, Liverpool have come away with all 3 points. And it really felt like a night where everything was finally starting to fall into place. We had a little bit of a precursor at Old Trafford at the weekend. We played better, we looked more threatening, we of course actually scored some goals, but this felt like the real deal tonight, in the Premier League, with it all on the line. If we were to have lost tonight, that would have been a fatal blow to any title hopes that were left alive, and also would have put us right in the thick of a top 4 battle that is the absolute last thing that Liverpool need at the moment. When it comes to the title race, I don't mind if you're a few points behind. As long as you're somewhere in the conversation, it's entertaining and it's exciting. But once you start having to look over your shoulder behind you at teams in 5th and 6th, that's where it actually just becomes something that's a little bit of a slog, because not only is your current season not going well, but you're suddenly staring down the barrel of a Europa League campaign. And listen, there's so much more time to go. I'm not saying that Champions League qualification is secured by any stretch of the imagination, but what's good is that Liverpool are now keeping everyone else at arm's length, Tottenham Hotspur included, who, based on tonight's evidence at least, are not going to challenge for the Premier League title. I thought they were very, very poor, and it's important to caveat any praise for Liverpool with the fact that Spurs were not at their absolute best. They still had good moments. There were times where Liverpool put together great attacking moves and very nearly scored, but for some great defending or a good save from Hugo Lloris. But on the whole, the way that Spurs set up and approached the game was not particularly impressive. And of course, with Harry Kane now looking like he's got his annual 2-month ankle injury layoff coming up ahead of him, then that could be a fatal blow to any title plans that they had. But talking about Liverpool instead, because that is of course what you are all here to discuss, and it's finally something that I think we can all enjoy. It's no longer a cathartic experience of getting all our negative emotions out in the open. We can finally once again bask in the glory of what is still an absolutely fantastic Liverpool team, and they reminded us of that tonight. We once again saw why these players are considered world class, why Trent Alexander-Arnold is considered the best right back in the world, because he defends well and then he goes up the other end of the pitch, scores a crucial goal to make it 2-0 after half-time with a wonderful walloping hit into the bottom corner, and then plays a dreamlike ball across pretty much, I was going to say all 22 men on the pitch. Obviously, that is hyperbole, but the amount of people who are taken out of the game by that raking cross from Trent Alexander-Arnold that eventually finds itself right on the left boot of Sadio Mane, who of course whams it into the back of the net to make it 3-1 and put the game beyond any kind of reasonable doubt. That is what has been missing from Trent's game all season, and you can argue whether it's, just a dip in form, maybe it's long COVID, has he got injuries, or is there something mentally going on? But it hasn't been a great campaign for him, and tonight could have been a real turning point for him, and it could have been a turning point for a lot of other players as well. Bobby Firmino was another one who has been having a bit of a time of it of late, I think it's fair to say. I said about a month or so ago, when he gets those 2 goals at Palace after scoring against Spurs, it felt like he got his mojo back, and then all of a sudden it completely disappeared once again. The aliens from Space Jam came along and ripped all the world-class ability out of his body, but it's been put back now. Tonight I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and it's no coincidence that Firmino plays well and suddenly the entire team's playing well as well. The way he controlled the ball, his touch was back, and that's what's been annoying. Is it's not like Firmino's been out of form. He's looked like a different player. His touch hasn't been there, his passing's been poor, he hasn't been able to dribble 5 yards with it or anything like that. But tonight the ball was sticking to his feet, no one could get it off him. Players were trying to close him down and muscle him off the ball or get a leg in and take it away, but he was having absolutely none of it. And then he'd do little turns, little flicks, and suddenly he'd play a brilliant pinpoint ball that would split that Spurs defence, set someone else on their way. It was always ambitious. He wasn't passing sideways or backwards. He was looking to keep the attack moving, and that was what was really impressive today as well, was There was no evidence of turgid side-to-sideness that has plagued the last few Liverpool games, certainly since the turn of the year, and also including those games against Newcastle and West Brom, those two draws. It was all about getting the ball and getting at Spurs as quick as possible, because we know how well drilled they are normally defensively, and you can get the ball and try and catch them on the break, but if you dawdle and take your time, they will all get back into position. They'll play that back five that is virtually impenetrable, and you've completely wasted any chance you would have had. And Liverpool were very keen to not allow that to happen at any point tonight. And there were so many players that were crucial to it. I thought, like I said, Firmino was fantastic at playing those balls quickly. Seeing Thiago a little bit further forward as well. We all spoke about this before the game. We want him to play in a more of a number 8 role than a number 6. And we saw that tonight, which was the right call as well, of course. I think with Harry Kane, obviously he goes off at half time, but he was very much occupying that space where our number 6 was, trying to win knockdowns and stuff like that. And I think Thiago would have struggled there. Gini Wijnaldum did a pretty admirable job. I thought earlier on in the game he maybe struggled a bit defensively. The first 10 minutes it was a little bit wobbly. The game was bitty in general. Neither team could really make the ball stick. That's obviously when Spurs get the goal that's disallowed for offside, but it felt like Gini took a little bit of time to calm things down and be comfortable in that number 6 role. But once he did, he was dictating play just as much as everyone else. And like I said, Thiago in front of him as well was just sublime. The passing, the movement, the speed of everything. I don't get these criticisms that have been levelled at him, and they've been levelled at him by jobbing pundits who clearly are not actually bothering to watch the game, because they're, for goodness sake, they're doing all this nonsense about saying that Thiago's slowing Liverpool down with side-to-side passing. There's no evidence of that. His passing is crisp, it's quick, it's direct, it's ambitious, and it creates chances when everyone else is on the same wavelength, and that's starting to happen now. He's getting a run in the team. He's playing every single week. Players are realising what Thiago's capable of. They know where he's going to pop up. They know what he's going to try and do. When he's got the ball, they know what runs to make, because they know what he can pick out as well, because he can pick out runs that most players on the planet can't. He is such a good passer of the ball that Trent Alexander-Arnold is on that right-hand side, and runs that he normally wouldn't bother making because other players that we have that simply don't have Thiago's ability are not going to be able to find him. He knows that actually Thiago is going to be able to lob the ball over the entire Spurs defence and then put the right amount of dip of it on it so it lands on his foot, and then he can run towards goals, set up chances and stuff like that. It's really starting to click now with Thiago in the midfield, and hopefully the Gini Wijnaldum at number 6 thing wasn't just a thing for tonight to get around Harry Kane and the way Spurs play. I'm crossing my fingers that that's going to be a regular thing now, because like I said, it benefited Gini as well. I thought he was a little bit better in that more receded role, and then Thiago further forward where he can actually get involved with the front 3. He's within passing distance of all of them at any time. He can also use his dribbling in threatening areas and stuff like that. I thought that worked so much better, so hopefully that continues as well. James Milner performed admirably for a bloke who has had criticism levelled at him this season from me as well. I've not necessarily criticism, but I've said it's pretty obvious that he's maybe not as good as, well, not as good, but not quite as fit and quick and full of stamina and energy that he was at the start of his Liverpool career, which is not a surprise. The bloke is 35 years old, but I thought tonight there were pretty much no signs of that whatsoever. He was fantastic in the midfield. The 3 of them, to a man, were excellent. They all had a very clearly defined role, an intelligently defined role. Klopp had put them in the right places to do the right jobs, and they did them all absolutely excellently. And like I said, Firmino as well, brilliant. Mo Salah maybe wasn't always in the game perfectly, but I thought got better as it went on. There was a really good moment late on where he picks out Curtis Jones with a little backheel pass, and I liked it because what he did was he gets the ball, he cuts inside, he does his usual motion to shoot that defenders all know Mo Salah's going to do, and it rarely works because they know he's going to do it, and they can bank so heavily on guaranteeing that's what Mo Salah wants to do. He wants to shoot in the box. He is a goal scorer after all, that they commit multiple men to him and close him down to try and block the shot. What that does is it frees up space for other people, and Salah doesn't always pick them out, but in this moment he played a clever little backheel to Curtis Jones, and listen, Spurs defended it very well. It doesn't lead to anything, but it showed that Salah's just thinking a little bit more, and that was characteristic of a lot of players tonight. They weren't just going through the motions and repeating the same sort of automatic attacking routines that we know have worked in the past, but clearly opposition players are getting a little bit wise to it and they know how to stop them. They weren't just repeating those mechanical routines. They were playing for each occasion. There's another moment earlier on in the game where Mo Salah, it's in the first half, gets the ball quite wide, and normally Trent Alexander-Arnold makes an overlapping run out wide and tries to head towards the byline so he can whip across him, because that is what he's generally in the team to do. But the thing is, Mo Salah was so wide that wouldn't have made sense. That would have pushed us into a corner. Spurs were comfortable in that scenario. So Trent, instead of doing what he has been doing over the last few games, which is, running on autopilot, he makes the decision to go central, to drive at the heart of the Spurs defence. And listen, he's not Lionel Messi. That's not always going to work out, but it's the best possible option at the time. So he takes it. He has the confidence to take it, to believe in his own ability. And listen, it doesn't come to a goal or anything like that, but it looks a lot more threatening than side to side, same thing every time, and it pulls the Spurs defence this way and that. It makes us more unpredictable. They start to second guess themselves because they don't know what Liverpool are going to do next. And it's no coincidence that when we're playing like that, eventually, before the halftime whistle, we get the first goal of the game. And it was good play from Sadio Mane, who I thought, his touch wasn't amazing in build-up play, and when he tried to involve himself in the early phases of attacks, it was kind of getting in the way almost, because his first touch just wasn't quite there at points tonight. But he was absolutely brilliant at standing right on the last man and making those runs in behind. And that's another thing we haven't been doing enough of. Another thing where all of our forwards are basically feeling like they have to be the one who makes it happen. And that means getting the ball to feet in front of the whole defence and then trying to play the perfect pass or the perfect dribble that unlocks a defence. That's not what they're there to do. That's what Thiago's there to do. And even Milner and Trent Alexander-Arnold, those attackers are there to get on the end of those passes. And Mane played like that today. Like I said, on the last man, always looking to run and get in behind. And listen, sometimes the ball is slightly overhit and Lloris gets out. Sometimes it's underhit or very well intercepted by a defender. But what it does do is it causes problems. It makes life difficult for that Spurs defence. And we haven't been doing enough of that. We haven't been making defenders struggle. They look like they've been relatively comfortable against us over the last few games, and that wasn't the case tonight for Spurs. And Mane has a few shots in the first half. There's the one right at the start of the game that he just shanks. Not too far wide. It's not awful, but his left foot, he goes to the near post and misses. He has, I think, another couple maybe that are saved by Hugo Lloris, but I'm absolutely fine with that, because I think it's a Michael Owen quote that says he never got annoyed when he was missing chances, because it meant that he was getting them. It meant that he was getting into shooting positions and taking them, and that is the most difficult part. Putting the ball in the back of the net, if you're a natural finisher like Owen was, and like Sadio Mane is, and like Salah is as well, isn't something that you really worry about. You just look to get into that position as many times as you can, and the law of averages means that eventually the ball goes in the back of the net. The law of averages also means sometimes it doesn't, and that's what happens in the first half, but then of course everything comes back around in the second half and Sadio Mane gets his goal. Before that, we get the great goal right after half-time. Fantastic strike from Trent. Also comes from Mane having the confidence to go for goal, to draw a save. Another thing we haven't been doing enough of, just making the keeper work, and then you look to get on the end of those rebounds, those second balls, those saves where they push it out into a still dangerous area, and that's what we do to get the goal. It's a shame, obviously, that Spurs then go straight up the other end and wham it in. It wasn't anything that was Liverpool's fault. We didn't do anything wrong with the Højbjerg goal at the end of the day. You just have to put your hands up and say he's whacked the ball really hard right into the corner of the net, so fair play, take your goal, whatever. But Spurs never really threatened much more than that. I thought, obviously, Matip goes off at half-time, which is not ideal. I don't know any of the ins and outs of how long Fabinho's going to be laid off and Matip's going to be laid off. There'll be a pre-match video for the West Ham game tomorrow, so we'll go into all that kind of detail then. We don't want to bog ourselves down with that kind of negative news at the moment. But Phillips came on and I thought performed admirably. I thought what I really liked about him, and this is something that I always like when you see a player who isn't world class, who isn't the best in the world, he's not Virgil van Dijk. What he did was he played to his limits. He knew what he could do and knew what he couldn't do, and he knows that he's good in the air. He knows that he's big and strong and he can muscle people off, and he did all of that brilliantly. That header where he just has that salmon-like leap over Heung-min Son and heads it away near the end of the game is absolutely fantastic. And thankfully, we have West Ham at the weekend, who will maybe play to his strengths a little bit. So if he does have to start in that game, it's not the end of the world. And listen, Phillips is maybe not good enough to be a centre-half for Liverpool long-term. Certainly not a regular in the first team. But on tonight's evidence, he was getting a little bit better. And there were moments as well, playing out from the back under pressure. He did the right thing by not playing short. Henderson did that a few times and it drove me mad during the game, trying to play short passes out from the back when you're under pressure, which is, an absolute death trap. Whereas what Phillips did, he went for a long pass, but he still picked someone out. He found Mo Salah. It eventually led to us getting into their half and threatening Vega. vaguely, which was fantastic to see as well. So it was an improved performance from Phillips. It maybe tells that he has been out of the spotlight. He hasn't really played, I don't think, at all since the game against Newcastle right at the back end of the last calendar year. And it looks like maybe Jurgen Klopp has been working with him a little bit to try and get him up to speed with what we need and what this Liverpool team is going to demand from him. And then, of course, we get the third goal as well. I've already spoken about how it was a brilliant ball from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Great hit from Sadio Mane as well. As I said, he has those sighters in the first half, and eventually one of them comes off, even though it's on his left foot, on the volley. Balls come all the way over. He has to react quite late as well, because you'd expect the Spurs player to clear it, but it ends up getting left, which means that he just whams it past Lloris. And listen, if he doesn't miss those chances in the first half, he doesn't score that one in the second half. It's as simple as that. So I was really pleased with everything I saw tonight. It feels really good to finally be saying positive things about Liverpool after what's been a really rough run of form. And what we've got to do now is make it count. You know, like I said, keep the rest of the top four battlers at arm's length and just keep snapping at Manchester City's heels. Of course, we are playing them in a week and a half's time. There's plenty more games to be played between now and the end of the season. The league is not a write-off at all, but Liverpool are now in quite a nice position here where all we have to do is just keep quietly winning our games and let the pressure fall on everybody else. And based on tonight's evidence, that may end up being how it works out after all. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, you know what to do. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. And I'll be back tomorrow afternoon with the pre-match content for the West Ham game. Until then, bye for now.